Live.
All right, everybody. Okay, so 5 of us are here. 5 of the 17 participants from ExcelHash 2021, and I'm standing here in my friend's kitchen because I have no power at my place. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna have some fun, and we're gonna talk about ExcelHash, what we got out of it, what were some memorable moments, were some challenges. Anything else anybody has to share? All right. Bill, what do you have to say? What's on your mind?
Well, this is my 3rd go round on ExcelHash.
Yep.
Right. Never finished out of the basement. Maybe 5th place out of 6 one time. So I just said, well, I'm gonna have some fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And you did have some fun.
I did have some fun with the ISEVEN function, which wasn't the right function. I was supposed to use the even function.
Right.
But you said even. I just heard I7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that sent me off. And once I had that joke that I was going to mispronounce it. Because
I7.
in every ExcelHash so far, there's been some disagreement on how to pronounce things. Like last year, the XOR function, you call it the
XOR.
Yeah, right. Is it XOR or XOR? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Then other people call it exclusive OR.
Well, yeah, those are people that have a lot of syllables to waste.
Right. Yeah, profligate is what that's called.
What's it called?
Profligate.
That's a word I've never heard. I hope that's not an Excel function, is it?
No.
So speak English, please.
Yeah, right. And then the other one, the secret function in Excel. This was a couple of years ago. Date diff. Is it date diff or is it a dated if?
Right.
It's date diff in my world, but
yeah.
So after those pronunciation things, I was like, well, yeah, we're just gonna have some fun and go.
Okay.
I7 instead of is even.
Yeah, you had some fun. Yeah. So Faraz, what did you get out of doing the challenge?
Okay, so there are a lot of things, means on the journey of preparing this and even watching our fellow friends, got to learn a lot of new things which never been experienced, like the slicers and when I was preparing this, it was my 2nd take. So the first take was going through Excel from Windows, going into the web version, and then coming into the Mac. But somewhere around in the Mac, when I came, I hit Power Query refresh. The data types they just blew off. Then I said, this has to be fixed it up. Then again, I reshooted my entire stuff, and it was fun. It was really fun. The even function was really thinking it in the real life. How it could work. It was really amazing, interesting.
So Faraz, do you live on the Mac? Is the Mac your primary computer?
Yes, my Mac is the primary. I use Parallels to shoot my videos.
Okay.
But most of my Excel videos, I prepare it on Mac only. And then I just, when I have to do something Power Query stuff, I just switch it to Windows.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Power Query and DAX.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And Fred, what was the challenge like for you?
First, it was to find a scenario to manage all this crazy function, and of course, like everyone, I struggled to use even. But since I find the idea, I do my video immediately. So this is why I was the first one, because I don't want to lose the idea. So for those who haven't seen my video, I have used even to manage that with conditional formatting to color to color the male and female.
Yeah.
And not do alternative row. Also, I have downloaded all the data from a real database. And also that's what I have included. It was not a part of the challenge, but how to load the data from SQL Server.
Yeah.
I should do a video about that because I know there is a lot of questions because people are struggling with CSV file. So I'm going to show how you can directly connect to a database, and it's very easy with Power Query.
And you and Paula both used real data.
Yes, I just changed the first name. I had, in fact, 2 years of working day and working time on this challenge. Why I have something like 13,000 videos, 13,000 rows, sorry. And yes, it was real data.
Wow.
And if you look at the video, I just have the first name, not the name. I hide the name just to be sure that it was secure data.
Right. And Cristiano, what'd you get from it?
I got a real problem to solve, but first of all, I thought, who had this idea to use even? My first thinking, who used this function? Because I never used before, and I almost gave up. But I thought always is organizing this together with Bill in the organization. I can't disappoint them. I have to make an extra effort because I don't have my own face to say, oh, I'm dropping. I have to move on. And then my main challenge was to discover what kind of real problem we could solve that needs to get a number, and when it's odd, we have to transform in the next even. And I searched all the internet and had to figure out what to do with the function, and I found out the problem. There is a problem. It's a real problem. For those who haven't watched the video, you can go to Excel Turbo to see, and there is a problem that for some guys may sound funny at the first moment, but it's not. There's a kind of women's clothes accessories that they sell only even, and if the measure is 37, for example, it goes to 38, and then we use even function, and the rest it was easier to come up with the idea, but not so easy to combine the ingredients because they are a little bit random. And but I got to solve something using the ingredients. It was fun. And
I'm glad you didn't drop out and found something, but I didn't know. I never thought to go online to try to find out some true real world need for this. Many of us made up a scenario. Then you had the others who did use even for the conditional formatting. A few people did that, but yours was like truly real world.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
I tried to.
It was a real business case. It was a true business case.
It was. It was the most plausible use of even, like actual, not just kind of made up.
Right.
It was fun because I had to read about something that I never read before. I had to understand about something totally new. So yes.
I mean, it's a serious thing because I ran a nonprofit for 4 years that collected and distributed bras, and it's bras and socks are the two hardest things for homeless people to find. It is a serious issue. So it sounds funny on the face of it, but then you get into it and it's not so funny.
Maybe for two young people, they can see and may see it. Hey, what is this? What is this spreadsheet? But we have a problem and we have a solution, and that's it. That's it.
Exactly.
We have some comments here.
Okay.
We have Claudia Rocho saying that. Cristiano, your video was the first one I saw from the contest and found it really interesting and useful. I'm glad to see a woman saying this because it was not easy to find the best approach to make the video without sounding maybe, some people may feel a little uncomfortable, but I think, this is the comment that I'm very glad to see. And we have somebody here. We have Christian Angel. We have
from Romania.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Romania, and everyone who is watching
Yep.
now, you can say your hello and say the place as well. That I
Yeah.
will highlight
Yes,
you
please.
here.
Christian, good to see you here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cabanas.
Alexandra. Bonjour. Yeah, Alessandro's a good guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what a
thanks.
success, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks,
By
Marcel.
the way, I use
Yeah.
Bill for you wish you a birthday, with an even function. Easy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. It is my birthday. If you send my birthday into the even function, or
Oh,
we said we'd
wow.
never use even again, but here today.
Oh yeah, and that was one Win Hopkins comment. He said, "Never use it, never will again."
Right. Yeah.
I think that's all of us.
Yes, definitely,
Lydia.
because modulo is
Lydia.
much it's easier to use than even or odd. So modulo is the perfect
Yeah.
function to use.
Right.
Right.
And that's the challenge, right? And that's the exciting thing for me is looking for really the essence of what the function does. Because if I can think of 3 other things, then what is still different about this one different from those other 3? That makes it really hard.
No, but your idea to use the lambda function was great because it's a new one and you can do a lot of stuff with it. But
Yeah.
even, believe it or not, what a nightmare.
Right. And I think Bill came up with Lambda.
Yeah, because
And
it was new, right? And a good
Yeah.
chance to try
Yep.
something out. Lambda
Yep.
and let.
Yep, Lambda and let.
And
And,
I saw some great lambdas. Like someone returned a picture via lambda. I was like, whoa, never thought about doing that.
Todd Singer.
Todd Singer, how you doing, Todd?
All right.
Yeah,
Indianapolis.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty neat to see how many people used Lambda to retrieve the image.
Yeah, I never realized that was a thing. And I was working on a new book, and I threw that. That's like the last topic in the book: how to do a lambda, return an image via lambda. So yeah, I stole that from ExcelHash. I should pay some royalty or something, right?
Yeah, there was a lot to learn here, like John Micheludis's slicers.
Oh yeah,
That was really cool.
Changing the slicers, that was cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So Oz, what'd you get out of ExcelHash?
Yep. And David Benaim. Yep. What thinking about what things really do. Because as I said already about seeing a bunch of different ways to do the same thing, but then I've got to justify this one. I don't want to have somebody come back and say, "Oh, you could have done this so much simpler." So it's a real brain teaser to think about what does this thing actually do that's different from this thing that's kind of like it. What's the difference between max and large? And then you throw ceiling in there. So things that do something similar, but they still have their own way that they're different.
Right. Yeah. Large can get the second largest. Max always just gets the max.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. That's good. I know Oz, you've been a storyteller, right? In improv, and you've done all these theatrical kinds of things. So did that influence your idea for ExcelHash with the underworld and having to bribe people to get fresh water and all that? I mean, it was a very cinematic video, right?
Definitely. And because, okay, so here's how I approached my video. The first year, we all did these long, detailed videos that seemed to piss all of us off. We all said, we're not doing that again. And it wasn't necessary, right? Because once somebody has explained the ingredients, it's no reason to listen to a bunch of other people explain them again. Okay, so my video wound up being about 9 minutes, longer than I expected, but it was more theatrical. And I felt okay about that because I was not getting down into the weeds of the stuff. Figured, folks watch enough videos, they'll get a sense of what is even. And then I had the choice of the LAMBDA LET dynamic arrays and something else, and I used the LET and dynamic arrays. So I just made a movie and didn't get into the how-to. Yeah.
You're not the only one. Win Hopkins also did that. He just plays a scenario and just so how he has makes a different feature.
Right. Yeah. He just did the demo. Yeah. And I've watched the Book of Eli a few times, and I like that view of things. And I wondered what other kind of jobs would be in that world. So I just developed this whole little movie and just did a demo.
Yeah. It was great.
I like the effects of that part of the eye. Like a horror movie. Something like that.
Yep.
The last part was quite scary. It all just, he comes and he just brings his sword, like this.
Yeah.
He just brings up his sword.
And he used some tracks and effects too. So it's not only about the video, but the sound. The sound is part of the video.
Yeah.
I like that.
And a lot of it is too thinking about, like watching a Key and Peele sketch. It builds to something. There's a punchline in the end. So I couldn't just demo it and say, okay, thanks a lot, and then be done. I wanted it to build to a boom.
Right.
So that's storytelling, that's sketch writing. Yeah. So all of that was in there, and it was pretty neat to be able to focus on that once I got my solution built. And I'm taking a comedy writing class on Saturdays online, and that's kind of helping me in addition to the shows I've been in for storytelling and whatnot.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, not just straight Excel, but something outside of Excel.
Yeah, and I had my first paid video editing gig back in October. That was
really?
Yeah.
That's cool. Wow.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it.
You should be like a Camtasia MVP or something, right? I mean,
I was surprised that they know me.
They know all of us.
They did
nothing related to Excel. Nothing with Excel.
No.
You did an interview for TechSmith long time ago, no?
Me?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I did a live stream conversation with somebody from TechSmith where we were discussing video length. How caught up should a person be about the length of their videos? Now, do you all think about that when you're making videos for YouTube?
I remember you have shared a link a long time ago, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. Yeah, I remember you've been.
Yeah.
It's so fun to see your video.
You might be talking about Oz, this course, maybe.
No. I did a live stream discussion with somebody from TechSmith a few months ago, like maybe back in the summer.
So, are we all using Camtasia, or is someone using something different other than Camtasia for your YouTube videos?
Camtasia for Mac.
Oh my God, you and the Mac.
Yeah. Christian is telling that he watches the movie after seeing your video.
Amazing.
Cool.
The Book of Eli.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Christian. Yeah. Wow.
So we have some words from David Albert. Hi.
David.
And
David.
happy birthday for Bill Jelen.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people is watching, but maybe I have something to propose. Does they have an idea maybe to include next year in the ExcelHash?
Mhm.
It could be fun that we ask to the audience.
What crazy ingredients should we use next time?
There is one
Yeah.
place. I know there is a function. I have a question for my friend.
Okay.
It's SQRTPI. How do you use this function, SQRTPI?
Oh my God, I have a story about that.
Okay.
I have tried to make a lot of research.
SQRTPI.
Impossible to find how to use it.
I used to talk in my live seminar about the functions that I couldn't find any use for. Fact double was one, and that's square root of pi. And I was in Springfield, Missouri, which doesn't mean anything to you, Fred. It's just in the middle of the country, and a whole bunch of people from in town, like 200 people were there. It was a big seminar for me. And there's a company in Springfield, Missouri that makes underground tanks, like, for oil or water or whatever. And a guy in the back row, he stood up, he says, "Oh no, we use that all the time. When you have a round tank and you need to fit as much liquid as a square tank," he had some formula that would convert a square tank to a round tank or a cylindrical tank using square root of pi. Right? Wow. Now, how did that ever make it into Excel? How did that become a thing in Excel? But here was one guy in Springfield, Missouri, who was like, "Oh yeah, I use that all the time."
Like,
Springfield, Missouri. Is it Homer Simpson?
It's one of the Springfields. We don't know which Springfield it is. But yeah.
If I know Springfield, it's just because there is a Simpson. That's all.
Right. Yeah. But that's interesting. That is one thing when I've gone through to look at the functions, I don't want to come up with something so weird to where now you got to go get an engineering degree or something in order to do anything with it. Like kurtosis.
Yeah.
Right. The KURT function.
The Bessel functions equal Bessel I, Bessel J. What the heck? Right.
Right.
How would we ever do anything with that?
Yeah. So, so Fred was suggesting about how to pick ingredients for next year.
Yeah, but ask to the people, or maybe
you can get it in the chat. People can.
You have 1 year.
The challenge is, and that's what happened. We did that the first year, and we had this whole long thing that then I would set up a randomizer for the first for 4, and every time I hit it, it came up with something that already goes together. So you got an if, a pivot table, conditional formatting, and sum. Well, we could just go pull anything off of our files and submit that. So then I had to think about it some more, and then we wound up with frequency in there and the 3D model.
3D model. That's something I've never used a 3D model since ExcelHash. Right? It's one of those things that, you used it once and then it's like, all right, I know it's there. I'm never going to use it again.
Well, this year the cutout person was a very good idea, because honestly, I never use the cutout people, but it gave me a lot of new idea for my next presentation. So this year, honestly, cutout people was a great idea, and I'm sure it's going to give a lot of idea for other people. It was great.
Especially where they're holding the sign, right?
Yeah.
Where you can put the words
Not
on
only,
That's really interesting, Fred.
And Paula did a good job with that, with the dynamic text. Yeah. And that's something else that's come out of this, is seeing how other people use Excel, seeing how other people think, and then oh, okay, I can actually use that for something.
And the solution of it was Shandu automatically or randomly it changes the picture was great.
Yes, right.
This one was great. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. There was the 3D model. I use those when I'm editing video, because I can go and get a bee and put it on a green slide in PowerPoint and move that bee around and then bring it over into Camtasia, get rid of the green, and have a bee sitting right there.
Oh, and it flies around your Excel screen then?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I've used a beaten heart, the skeleton, shark, all kinds of 3D models, but yeah, in Camtasia.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Is it a certain green? Does it have to be a certain green or any green?
No, it has to be a color that there's nothing else that's the color of.
Okay.
So you could make it gold, but as long as you don't have something else on the screen that's gold, it's fine.
I never use that.
You use that visual effect, right? When we add that with the visual effects, you record it and then you add the visual effects.
I record it and then I take that clip and put it into Camtasia.
And then you add it.
And then remove color.
Yes.
It's that remove color feature.
Yeah.
Yeah. Use remove color a lot. Yeah. So I guess any closing thoughts about ExcelHash 2021 before we finally put it to rest and look toward 22?
So first of all, I would like to say, thank you, Oz and Bill, sir, both of you. Really appreciate your time you have given. This video, everyone video, and you have come up, and it's a great, you have that, and this is what I like to thank. And the last word, we will be seeing soon in the next challenge 2022, and that's all I have to say from my side.
Thanks. Fred.
Yeah, what?
Any closing thoughts about 2020 ExcelHash 2021? You said it all.
But for me, it was a challenge to, like I said earlier, it was a challenge to find an idea to mix all these features all together, because I want to find something useful and not just the fact to play with the different ingredients. But also I really like what the other did, because each one of us put something on the table, and like you mentioned in your video, you and Bill and you, it was great. We all had great idea to find the way to mix all these ingredients. So I really like all the solution.
Yeah,
it's difficult to find which one is the best, because I really like the one of John Acampora with the table.
Yes,
this one was great.
Yeah, it is hard to find some winner. So Bill and I in the background, we had just kind of joked around with the idea of a best this, best that, and versus like an overall best.
No, seriously, I was very glad to not be one of the winners, because I don't know how I can use it in France.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
We would have changed the prize for you. You would have got $100 worth of croissants or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
I lost the connection, but I could hear a little about somebody that made a solution that we liked a lot, and I saw John McDougall with that thing of automation and automate. Great. There's a guy here, David Albert, telling that he would like to see Office script in the next. Take a look on the 16th video. There's something.
Next ExcelHash.
It's a deal. He's trying to complicate.
Yeah, this is interesting. Yeah. This is interesting, right? Because
on the web, it's entirely on the web.
Right.
That's
because this is interesting, right? Because I don't want to get into coding, right? That's why we took VBA off the table. But the idea of Excel on the web, that's available to people to use. Nobody used it though.
Well, no, John McDougall did.
John McDougall. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yes. You commented on that. Yeah.
The last video of all of the playlist. Yes. The last one.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yes, it was. I agree. Brilliant.
I don't know. Before we do Excel online, why don't we do like Excel for the Commodore 64 or something? You only had like 256 rows by 12 columns. See what you can do there.
Wow.
Excel online, that would be a real challenge. That would I would almost rather do Excel on the Mac.
Wow.
But there is one trick. It's how to insert a slicer on Excel Online. It's possible, but it's very not easy to find where it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you have to, for those who are listening, you have to do a right click on the field, and it's only there that you have add as a slicer. Otherwise, you cannot find the option.
Okay.
That was David's comment, right? David, I congratulate you for giving 5 people heartburn, right? That we would have something in Excel Online.
Yeah. It's not even noon here, and I already got some like.
Yeah, right.
But I need to thank Bill for having wound up being like a co-producer of this thing. I didn't expect that, but I appreciated all the help in the background.
Oh yeah.
And thanks for Cristiano for helping with this live stream, and appreciate all the participants: Faraz, Fred, Paula, John.
Can you see all the comments?
We had several Johns. Huh?
Yeah. We have Wayne
Wayne.
from
Oh,
California.
Wayne.
Hey Wayne.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
We're headed to watch
Appreciate it
the
all.
Mars landing next.
Yeah.
That's our next on the
That's a
schedule.
good comment. It's also live in France. We are following that
Yeah.
each minute. So
Right.
it should be landing in 1 hour and 15 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mars. Yeah.
I'm sure that Bill Jelen takes some inspiration from NASA to make some crazy solutions and complex
Well, the
stuff.
first year was a real one. Was that Benin or
Bennu, Asteroid
Bennu.
Bennu. Asteroid Bennu. Yeah, right. Yeah, that was a NASA project. And
Yep.
since then, don't get me started. Since then, they've actually gone and they touched down on Bennu and they collected some rocks and they're sending them back. It'll take a couple of years to get back here, but like that was a interesting landing. Trying to land on something pretty small, but they did a great job. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Although
Cristiano, yeah, go ahead.
it was gripping. They when they collected the stuff, it was supposed to close. The door was supposed to close, didn't close, and so like all this debris and dust from the asteroid is falling out, and so they had to change their plans and close it up real fast before it all leaked out into space. So we think it's a foregone conclusion they're going to land on Mars today. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, and it's so far away. So it'll be interesting to see what happens today with that Mars landing.
Man,
They make it
Even
look
the
easy.
photographer can
years
go
to
wrong
get back.
sometimes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, all kinds of things. All kinds of things.
Even the photographer can go wrong.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
A year ago, there was a lander from Israel that was going to land on the moon, and it got there.
Yeah.
Right, all these 8 orbits around the Earth, and it got there, and the computer rebooted on the way down, and during that reboot, crashed into the moon because it didn't turn on its thrusters. So I hope it wasn't Windows. I hope it wasn't a Windows computer that caused that.
right.
Linux
right.
or something, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So
I never told you this story.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. Cristiano, any closing thoughts? And then we'll get to Bill, and then we get out of here. All right, Cristiano.
I see people being encouraged by the challenge, trying to make at home their own solutions. We have one guy here from a comment right there on the beginning, and this is awesome. The work that you guys, thanks to your initiative, always. This is inspiring people to try to push the boundaries to be better in Excel, and this is fantastic. I see that they are trying to invent something. I saw a guy publishing its own video, even not on the list of the competitor.
Oh, that's cool.
Participant.
Yes, there was a guy. Yeah, I shared it.
Yeah, on LinkedIn.
He was on LinkedIn.
Yes. It was really good.
Okay, I'm making the challenge too. Here's my video.
Yep.
ExcelHash.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It was beautiful.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks. This is really awesome. Not only because Excel, I can talk because of my case. I had to find information about another problem, and this makes us to think outside the box. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
Even for us.
Thanks.
Even for us.
And I'll say, part of it comes from when I was in art school and seeing the students use stuff the wrong way or doing weird stuff. And one thing, I took a class on making pottery. You get the clay and everything, and then put stuff in the kiln. Well, I had a whole bunch of peanut shells that I packed my piece in, and it looked like when it came out of the kiln, like it was centuries old. The instructor didn't know what we were going to get, but he was always up for experimentation, and it was freaky the way that happened. Then there was this other thing that made me mad. There were these two filmmakers. They took some film and put it in a crab pot and threw it in the ocean. And they left it for a few days, come back, and they developed the film and played it for us. And it was a lot of interesting pops and squiggles and burn things. And for 5 minutes, it was okay. 15 minutes of that started to be too much. 45 minutes later, when that shit ended, I was like, God damn it, y'all. This is abusive. No. So, and when they came up to talk about their film afterwards, I wanted to smack them. And that's why 5 minutes was great. It was fascinating.
There's a lesson there. Your entry should not be that long. 5 minutes.
All right. Bill, closing comments.
Oh, yeah. I always have fun with this. I learned so much just watching all the other videos. And of course, being a smart ass, that's trying to figure out how good was their use of even, right? Did they really have a legitimate use for even?
You use ISEVEN, not even.
I got it completely wrong. And Fred, you said, don't watch my video's done, but you can't watch it till you're done with yours. So I didn't watch anyone else till mine was done. And then I went and watched Win. I think Win was, and I'm like, why is he using even? It was his even. And then I realized my video was done. Too late. The story, that was it. The story. Yeah, so I was pretty much disqualified. Although Ran Between didn't care. I still had an equal 1 and 17, 2 and 17 shot. So what the heck?
Hey.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
I wrap it even into an even into an even.
Yeah, for us, you have the most evens in your formula of anyone, right?
And finally, I have an is even.
With an is even. Yeah,
Yes.
I wrote that down. So gold star for the most use of even.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you all. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the discussion and the participation and embracing this thing that I was not sure anybody would embrace. But we got a lot out of it, and the audience as well. And thank you to the audience too. Really, really appreciate you all.
And hey, everyone watching down below, like, subscribe, and ring that bell for all 5 of us. All 5 of us. Go sign for all 5 of us. Yeah, right. All right. Awesome. Thanks.
Bye.
Cool.
Bye.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Bye.